Hey everyone, welcome to the SingularityComputers NAS build. This is actually my first personal project in nearly 4 years. Certainly not by choice, it's terrible, I know. I definitely have a lot of upgrading to do. Now I thought I'd film this in a more relaxed style, the way I used to film, because I think for some people it's a bit more interesting, more hands-on. So let's get straight into it and take a look at the components that I have here. So I have some crucial ECC memory, and it's 2133 megahertz, DDR4, 16 gig. I have an interesting motherboard here. I actually found it quite difficult to find an up-to-date server board, which is also ITX. What I was looking for in a motherboard for this project was, first of all, just something unique that was going to make this project more interesting. Also something up-to-date, high-end, something that was going to be upgradable and scalable for a long time to come. And it took me a while to find this board, but I was very happy when I did because it ticks all of the boxes. It's an incredible little board. So it's a Supermicro ITX server board. It has the Intel Xeon D1520 quad-core 8 threads. It's only 45 watts, so you can see the very small passive cooling for it. It's also SoC. But this motherboard can handle up to 128 gigabytes of DDR4 or 64 gigabytes if it's ECC registered. It has an M.2 slot. It has a x16 PCI Express 3 slot. And take a look at the rear I/O. It has USB 3, 2 on the rear I/O, 2 on the midboard. But it has 3 LAN ports. Now one of them is gigabit, the other 2 are 10 gigabit LAN ports. So you can only imagine the possibilities with this board with those connections bridged, a gigabit switch, the amount of networking bandwidth. I mean, what is going to be possible with this board is amazing. The only real limitation is the SATA ports. There's only 5, but that's certainly not a problem because I can just add a RAID card when I need to. The hard drives I have are hard drives that I had laying around. So just some Western Digital Red 4 terabyte, a couple of those. Now for the operating system, which I'm pretty sure I'm going to use FreeNAS, I will just get a very small M.2, kind of entry level something cheap, but for now I'm going to use a Western Digital Black 1 terabyte because it's just all that I had here and I don't want to wait any longer to start this build. But the case is also very cool from Silverstone, the DS380. And the great thing about it, if I can get the front open, there we go, is this. There are 8 SATA 3 hot swap bays, which are also SAS. Power and reset buttons here, hard drive activity and power, 2 USB 3, front panel audio. It's also ITX, obviously, as you can see from the size of it, but I'll get it open shortly and we'll take a good look at it. Also, Silverstone 600 watt SFX small form factor power supply. And I've had a lot of these over the years. Well, I've built a lot of systems with these. Great little power supply, perfect for this build. And it's modular, which is excellent for a power supply of this size. So I'm pretty sure I have everything here I'm going to need. Connectors, pins for the custom wiring. I have wire here, 18 gauge and 22 gauge. 18 gauge for all of the main cables, 22 for any fan wiring that we might do. Sleeving heat shrink from MDPC-X, and over here some SATA data cables as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to initially build this system and then come back in a few months and upgrade it. Add the M.2, potentially add a few more hard drives, and maybe do some mods, because I'm not sure. There's a few things about this case that I'm not entirely happy with and that I would like to change, but right now I just need to get it up and running, so I'm just going to put it together as it is. But I'd also like to do custom cables for this build. Very important with a case of this size to have custom cables of the correct length. Otherwise I'm just going to have cable mess everywhere, and I never build systems like that, so it will definitely be temporary. Let's take a look at the Silverstone DS380. This is definitely an interesting little case. It was released in early 2014, so it's been around for a little while, but it kind of looks like one of the older cases, I guess pre-2007, because it's black on the outside and silver on the inside, but that's because this is a practical case designed to perform a specific function, not really what us water cooling enthusiasts are used to, where it's all about aesthetics, but definitely on the outside it's a elegant understated case. I mean, mostly black except for the rear panel, and then we have this nice brushed aluminium front piece, and then we have the power button here, Silverstone logo. There's also a power and reset button underneath, which I'm pretty sure that one pushes right through into. But take a look at the construction, always the same with Silverstone. I mean, this is one heavy solid side panel. It's all properly folded on the edges. Always very well constructed, and something I really like about Silverstone is that they usually bolt almost everything together. I mean, in a lot of their more high-end cases, there are no rivets, so they are great for modding. And you can see a bit of that here, where the plastic front panel is screwed on, very easy to remove. This entire hot swap drive bay compartment can come out, and same with these bays up here. So we have the 8 hot swap bays, and if you take a look at the back plane here, which is a green PCB, we have 2 ports on each one. One is SATA, one is SAS, so it does both. And to power the whole thing, we only have 2 Molex connectors, which is great to see. You know, it's good that there's not one on each. You know, sometimes they overdo it a bit with the power inputs, and it just means a lot more messy wiring. But I believe to remove this, there are 2 screws there, 2 at the bottom and then 2 underneath, and it just slides out. And this one here, 2 screws there, 2 screws at the back. So this is 2.5 inch for SSDs or hard drives. 120mm fan mounting position there. Inverted motherboard, which is always good to see, a little bit more interesting. Works well with the airflow, you know, from the power supply, drawing the air up and out. Cold air coming in at the bottom here with this fan. And then around the back there are 2 more 120mm fans cooling the hard drives. But let's take a bit of a better look on the inside here. So, yeah, you can see that's just a very... Oh no, the whole thing is extruded. So this is an extruded aluminium piece, wow. You can see it's very thick, 3mm, so that's really high quality. It's great to see. I was wrong, it's not just the skin. And what is going on here? Okay, so that pushes right through and hits the power button on the inside. And this is probably the locking system. So it's lockable there on the side. Let's take a look around the back. So we have these removable dust filters, magnetic. Silverstone actually has a lot of these that you can purchase separately for 120 and 140mm fans that are like this one here, but all nicely dust filtered except for the intake down there. And we have these interesting Silverstone fans, but I am going to replace those, even though they are quite good. I'll probably replace them with Noctua fans, or maybe Noise Blocker. We'll see what I have in the cupboard of goodies. And then underneath we just have some nice big thick rubber case feet and those 2 screws there, which are to hold the hot swap bays in position. So let's strip this thing down. So I've stripped the case down, it's completely empty as you can see, and it really is just a practical, well designed and constructed case, which is perfect for this. I mean, there's nothing else that has 8 hot swap bays like this with this kind of form factor. There are some great options from Lee & Lee if you want a really elegant, you know, beautiful case that's all brushed aluminium, black. Lee & Lee definitely has some nice options, but I've removed the stock fans and I'm going to replace them with some EK Vardar fans, which I've rated from another build. And these are 1150 RPM, PWM, 68 cubic meters per hour, 9 PA, static pressure, and 23.7 decibels, which is a little bit on the louder side for my liking, but you know, some of those decibel readings are more honest than others, and I suspect for a fan like this that EK has just been, you know, extremely honest about their decibel reading. But we will see, because a lot of these fans that are supposed to be quiet are not. I'm sure most of you are familiar with these fans by now. Will certainly suit the colour scheme of this build. Nice looking fan. Definitely a big center, big motor, which is going to reduce the blade size a bit and potentially reduce performance, but I guess you can have a better, quieter motor or something. But half decent sleeving. It's not the greatest, and we do have multicolored wires, which I would much prefer to see black wires. EK logo on both sides, that looks cool. So anyway, let's get these installed. I've turned the case upside down for this so that you can properly see what's happening. I've just punched out the openings in the rear I/O, not very many, as you would expect from a motherboard like this one, a server board. Okay, so it's going to go in that way. I will install the power supply before I install the motherboard. You know, it's just common sense to start with the big, heavy components and work your way back. Although, you know, there are certain things that have to be installed in a specific order. But we have here the awesome small form factor 600 watt power supply. I mean, it's amazing that such a powerful little power supply can be fit into this, you know, even with the modular connectors, 80mm fan. And this fan it will only switch on when the power supply reaches a certain load. So most of the time it's not even on, but reading the specifications here, we have 600 watts and 50 amps on a single 12 volt rail, and it's gold rated. So time to install the crucial 16 gig DDR4, 2133 MHz, 1.2 volt CL15 memory. Just one stick for now. I mean, 16 gig is going to be definitely more than enough for what I'm going to be doing in the near future. Just really only a small amount of backup, only access from a couple of systems. Something that really frustrates me is the length of these cables. I mean, it's going to almost drive me to the edge to have to connect up all of these stock cables when they're this long. And actually, I'm not even going to use the front panel audio or the USB 3. So what I might do is just remove the PCB altogether to get rid of this mess. But I obviously do need the power and reset. So probably eventually I'm going to cut these down. Actually, I might even just do it now. Cut these down, connect them up to a USB 2 connector, and do my little mod. So let's get on with that. So I'm just going to remove the front panel connectivity, because these USB 3 cables, they are way too long. You can't shorten these cables. I mean, just look at how many wires there are. It's even worse than the USB 3. And I have done it previously, but my God, it takes a long time, a lot of soldering and fiddling. Front panel control header, JF134. There it is there. It's the longer one on the side here. So I'm not going to be able to do my USB 2 header, I don't think. No, because it's all divided. That's unfortunate. Oh well, I can still cut them down and sleeve them. So let's get started on this custom wiring. Also for the fans, these need to be re-sleeved. I don't like the look of that sleeving, but for this build I can't be too fussy, I can't spend too long. So I think I'll just go straight across. I'm going to have to remove the fans again to be able to properly do this, because the way I've routed that wire, it should be coming out of there. But when it is, I'll be able to go around like that and straight up to there. So I can cut that one. Always give it, you know, a little bit of extra, maybe 15 mil just in case. And the other thing I could do is just run them off Molex and connect them to a splitter, but I suspect that this motherboard will have some sort of management for the RPMs. These side cutters are great, they give a really nice clean cut. And I'm going to use the same connectors, these stock connectors again, when I put them back on again. And I'm definitely going to sleeve these because of the multicolored wire, but you know, that's really not what this build is about. I mean, I'm just trying to build a practical system here, but I can't help myself, I have to do it. So in this box here, I have all of the different types of connectors. I actually have a lot more than this, but this is just my box for quick access. And then underneath I have pins. There are, you know, a lot of different types of pins that you need, but the ones that we're about to use are the tiny little USB 2 pins, is what I call them. So they look like an ATX pin, but they're just smaller. And that's what we need for these. Now, if you build a stock system and all you have to do is install the components, I mean, it takes no time at all and it's incredibly quick and easy. I mean, I enjoy building a stock system sometimes because it's just such a breeze, and it's amazing to be able to have the build up and running on the same day that you started building it, because it's just something that never happens with me because I'm always doing custom builds with a lot of customization. But now you see, for such a simple build like this one, with only a few components to install into a tiny case, you know, how much time custom wiring can add, but then at the end, the result is just so worth it. But that's it for this part of the build log. The next part of the build log will cover the completion of the build. Thanks for watching, and remember that none of this would be possible without our patrons.